Hello everyone. Today we're going to be going over how to use the comparisons window in Diadem Elite. To open the comparisons window, I simply need to click comparisons in the sidebar and the window will appear. To compare two or more compounds, we'll first need to load a few compounds. So let's search by Dipper ID. I'm going to look up methane, Dipper ID 1. My search results pull up here, and I will click on methane to add it to my sidebar. And let's now do ethane, Dipper ID 2, and we'll add a third compound as well, propane, Dipper ID 3. So now I have 3 compounds loaded for my comparisons that I'm going to do. If I want to load from a file, I can do so as well. I'll just need a CSV file containing the CAS numbers of the compounds I want to load in that file. For now, we'll just stick with these, and let's do a constant properties comparison. Here's our constant properties tab. See, we have our compounds all right here, and here is their accepted value for molecular weight. If I want to change to a different property, I just go to this first of our 3 drop downs, and I choose whichever one I want to look at. Let's go to normal boiling point. And here's all of the normal boiling points for methane, ethane, and propane. It's currently sorted by value. I can change the sorting as I please. And let's sort by Dipper IDs just so we can see where everything is. Now, if I want to change the units on the normal boiling point, I can go over to this second drop down and click whichever unit I so desire, whatever is most convenient for what I'm trying to use these values for. And as you can see here, these are all accepted values for these properties, but if I want to look at any unevaluated data, I can do this in our third drop down, which lets us choose the data type. And you can see there's a lot of different values here. We can go back to accepted values. Let's look at this graph compounds button. If I click this, the graphing window will open, and you can see the properties for each of my compounds here. And there's a lot to go over with the graphing window, so we're going to save a detailed dive into how the graphing window works for later. But for now, this is just a convenient way to compare properties at a glance. If I click on one of these rows, as you can see, there's a source down here where this data came from, any notes that are associated with the data point, and the definition of the property that I'm looking at if I need a reminder on what this actually is. Now let's go to TDEP properties and have a look at them. So as you can see, we have our property drop down here as well. I can change to whichever property I want. Let's do vapor pressure. I can change the units. Let's go to atmospheres. And this value is red because methane is not currently a liquid at 298 K. So let's lower our temperature using this controlled panel over here. Now our values are all reasonable. And as you can see in the footer, if I click on a row, information on the correlation will come up and the data types used to create that correlation and so on and so forth. And I can change my temperature units as well to whatever I need for what I'm working with. We'll stick with Kelvin. Once again, I can graph this comparison so that I can see at a glance how these different compounds compare. We'll close that. Last but not least, there is the Create Report tab. So this will create a PDF or an Excel report with all of the accepted constant values and every temperature dependent correlation. and I can choose to see any non-accepted values or any of the individual data sets that make up the temperature-dependent correlation if I so choose by checking these down here. We are not going to do that for now because that will create a pretty crowded report. So for now, let's just do create PDF. So when we click this button, it'll pull up our file explorer and it will download a PDF comparison report for each of the chemicals we've selected. So let's say propane, and then ethane, and then methane. Now we will hop over to our file explorer and we will take a look at each of these. So here's methane's PDF report. As you can see, there's some basic general info about methane, and we have all of our accepted constant properties here in this table. We didn't select any of the unevaluated values, so we won't see any of them here. And here's the references that these values come from and some notes on them. Now here are our temperature dependent properties and the equations and their data types. And here's the correlation coefficients if you want to do calculations with them. And if we go over to ethanes, we can see it looks pretty much the same as well as propanes. So this is good if you want to get a general overview of the properties for a few specific chemicals. Now, let's close this and go back over to Diadem, and we'll take a look at the Create Excel Sheet function in the Comparisons tab. When we click this button, it will pull up our File Explorer, and we'll have the opportunity to save our Excel sheet under whatever name we so desire. I'll just call it Excel Report. So now we'll open this. And give it a second. And here we are. So here's our general information on these different properties. We can now look at accepted constant properties for all of these chemicals and sort them as I please. You can see there's all sorts of different properties in this list. Here are our TDEP correlation equations whenever I need them. Here's the references that this data all comes from. Again, any notes associated with the chemical, and an appendix of property definitions for convenience. That has been the comparisons window. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope that this has been helpful in your journey in learning to use Diadem Elite. As always, if you have any questions or feedback on Diadem Elite, or if you have found any bugs in the code that have shown up as you've been using it, please feel free to submit a ticket to support@byu.edu on Zendesk, and we will do our best to get to it as soon as possible. Thank you so much.